Lords of Wonder and Ruin, a collection of rules for medieval wargames by Alchemic Raker. You can find him over on X, formerly known as Twitter. And you can pick up a copy of this. I don't know, just Google it. Old Lords of Wonder and Ruin. It's great. It's basically chainmail. Streamlined, rewritten to make it readable by people with a 7th grade education, which I happen to be a member of that club. No brag, just fact. What you see before you are the Dank Elves. They are led by a warlock. We'll talk more about what that means coming up. Now, he is a leader, so he gives all the usual buffs to units within 6 inches, 15mm figures, playing at half scale. Let's run down the troops. The anchor here are 13, baker's dozen of heavy foot. They've got the heavy gold armor and the big honkin' two-handed swords. We've got a dozen. This guy here, I just added him to round out a nice even 13. He's not a leader or anything like that. The only commander we have over here is the spellcaster. Over here, we've got our archer equivalent. Notice that these guys here, and most of these figures, I think all of these figures come from Splintered Light. The unit here on the foreground left, they have hand crossbows. We're just going to call those short bows. Light units, light foot. Got a second unit of light foot. They have dual-wielding swords. Doesn't really make any mechanical difference. This big fella back here, not a treant. We're not going to use the fantastic elements, fantastic creatures. We're going to treat him as a giant. So he can huck boulders like a catapult. Fights as 8 medium foot. And then for some punching power, we've got some medium horseback here. 6 of those. 60 guys. Now, these lizards aren't quite, they're two-footed, they're bipedal, so I'm going to say they're not quite as stable and not quite as tough as regular horses. The boys that are riding them are wearing the heavy gold armor, so, kind of on balance, not quite light, not quite heavy. We're just going to call them medium. Now, those guys, nothing too fancy here, nothing too special. The opposition force, however, consists of a whole lot of undead. I actually have more than you see here in the little family photo. So the unit sizes are going to be on the left-hand side of the screen. I've got a unit of 21 zombies and a unit of 20. If I can find, I got to go dig up. I might have a couple more zombies. So it might be more like 23 and 20. Okay. Now the zombies, we got to figure out how to use those. We'll take a look at the rules for Undead as written. But first, let's just run the numbers. We've got 10 heavy foot. Nope, I got that wrong again. They are armored foot. Remember, in chainmail, it goes light, heavy, and armored. These guys are armored. The guys in the back there, the skeletons with arrows, the little bows there, we're going to call those archers with long bows. And then over here on the right-hand side of the screen, I have 2 units of 23 spearmen. There's like 15 on the table right now, just to make it easier to get them on here. Each of those units, actually, when we start the battle, will have 23. They are spearmen. And both the archers and the lightly armored skeletons, they're going to move and fight as light troops, but defend as medium because they're undead. They're terrifying, right? The leader is a warlock. He is just as powerful as the leader of the Dank Elves, and they're both going to have a collection of spells. We'll look at those here in a little bit. Big thing is that we're going to treat these guys all as fully armored for arrows. And these guys, the zombies now, to make things interesting, we're going to add the rule that they move as peasants move. When you activate them, you have to roll a 7 or less in order to get them moving. If our warlock is within 6 inches, he can kind of goad them along with a 6 or less. No, an 8 or less. We got to give him a little bonus there. The old man of the lake, Lake Geneva, gave the undead the ability to see in the darkness, but they find bright light and daylight intolerable. In full light, undead receive a +1 modifier to combat. Now remember, that's a penalty in this case. And morale rolls, or +2 in man-to-man combat. Then we have rules for ghouls, wights. Oh, these have the fighting capability of orcs, but have slower movement speed of goblins. So to mix that up a little bit, this is where I say, that's the other way you do this, is, hey, if you want to give them a little bit more punching power but slow them down, you can always have these spearmen fight as medium but move as armored. Why don't we do that? That could be great. The other thing is they're undead. They don't suffer fatigue. So they've got some useful boosts and power-ups, but they are going to be somewhat penalized by the terrain. Because most of the table is light woodlands, the only effect that has on this particular game is that formations can't move through it. You have to be in open order. As you can see, I already have 5 objective markers down. Whoever controls 3 of those, I should say whoever controls more of those than their opponent at the end of 8 turns will be the winner. The only other thing we have left to do is roll for deciding who's deploying on the north, who's deploying on the south. The white die will be for the bonesmen. And hey, we didn't have a tie. That's great. The skeletons get to pick which side they want to come on. And obviously they want to defend this side. There are 1, 2, 3 objective markers outside the woods. They can stay ranked up and maybe put the archers up on the hill where they cannot be charged. Oh, there are 1, 2, 3 areas of heavy brush in the woodlands that nobody can move through. Remember, woods are not monoliths. They do have little varieties. I could put a clearing over there if I wanted to, but just to keep it simple. The trees themselves, we're going to move, helter-skelter as people move through. The trees are just representative. This white line, of course, is the tree line. Following alternating deployment by units, the undead wind up with their heavy hitters, those armored foot, and one of their spear units over here on the left, unsupported by the warlock because the warlock wants to support the zombies. We'll see that in a second. The archers, of course, are going to try to get up on that hill where they cannot be charged, and that will give them a little bit more staying power. The tree man, you can barely see him. He's right there through those trees, and the horsemen, they're the lizard riders, are over here on the left. They're going to sweep through those trees. Now, it occurred to me as I was, between filming, I have to kind of sneak in these videos as time and the family and the universe and the fates allow. One thing you could do is the skeletons, you could treat the wood line as the area where they don't suffer any penalties for fighting in daylight hours. That would add additional impetus to the concept of, hey, who wants to be in those woods? Be that as it may, we've got our 2 forces of zombies over here. Like I said, we're going to give them the ability to activate on 8 or less instead of 7 or less. That's actually kind of impressive. That's a larger bonus given the 2d6 bell curve, if you will. And then 1 more unit of skeletons, the spear guys, over here to give them a little bit more punching power. They absolutely wanted to be over here on the clear side. They can ignore the two objectives that are in the wood line and still come out on top. Of course, that does give a lot of the initiative, the overall strategic initiative, to the elves. And for their part, the elves can effectively claim ownership of the 2 objectives that are in the woods. It's unlikely the skeletons are going to be able to challenge for them. Now, they are close enough to the edge that it may be a concern. Remember, if you're within 1.5 inches, you can test for it, which means these are the 2 objectives that the elves are really going to be pressing for. We'll just give up the one behind the hill. So the idea here is they put their bowmen over here on the far right-hand side as you're looking at it. They can get them to the edge of the woods. The woods will give them a little bit of protection, and they can just kind of rain hot death down on here. The problem, of course, is that if they're shooting at skeletons, they have that increased armor. The medium troops are over here, and then their leader is over here. So the leaders are actually on opposite sides of the table, but they are warlocks. They're going to be dropping boom boom spells like crazy. In the rules as written, you have to declare what spells you have prepared before the battle begins. So, I haven't done that. Maybe I should write those down before I record the first turn of this game, but we'll get to that. This is the heavy foot for the armored foot with the big 2-handed swords. 13 guys over here on the right-hand side. So again, kind of bringing all the heavy guys around here, and just kind of holding off the hordes on this side of the table. That's really what we're looking at for the elves. Let's find out now who gets the first activation, or who gets to choose. The skeletons get to choose, and they say, you know what, we're happy. We'd like to go first. After the first turn of movement, the elves have moved up. Of course, the horses moved a little bit further. Now, all the units inside the woods are, of course, in open order. And you can see that I kind of got this wrong. This is a unit of archers over here. These guys are just light infantry. And for the skeletons, they've moved up in a nice steady line, except, these zombies over here on the far right flank just didn't make their roll. So they're not going to be able to move up. Now we do the archery, and unfortunately for the skeletons, Not only have their archers moved, but remember that the crest of a hill represents half the hill. So everything beyond this ruler is out of line of sight. They didn't quite have enough movement to get over onto the downhill side, so they're going to have to do that on the next turn. We do have some magic that we can do, except that a warlock has to remain stationary, no moving, no melee, if he wants to get a spell off, which means we're not going to do any magic. By the way, the range on the longbow is 10.5 inches, range on the short bows 7.5. This is my turn counter, which we advance to turn number 2, and at the start of every turn, we roll for initiative. White is always for the bony guys. They get to go first, and they say, yeah, we want to move first because we want to get these bows into position. They're only going to get one shot off this turn, but one is better than none. So the first thing I want to do is roll for the zombies. We're going to roll for these guys that you see in the front. Remember, we need to get less than an 8. They're not going to move. And what about the guys in the back? With a 9, they are also not going to move. The zombies are a liability, folks. What can I tell you? Following movement on turn 2, you can see that the cavalry are trying to make a nice broad end-around sweep, maybe to hit these guys in the flank, but they do have 2 of those fatigue markers. Meanwhile, the heavy hitters for the Dark Elves have moved up, as has their wizard. You will notice I've turned the objective markers yellow for the 2 that are controlled by the Undead, and purple for the ones, see here's a purple one right there, for the ones that are controlled by the Dank Elves. Now, the Dank Elf Sorcerer moved up to the edge of the woods. He is going to be in light cover, but we're fixing to have ourselves a little archery fight in the center of the battlefield. Here's what things look like over on the right flank for the Undead. You can see the Dank Elf kind of light infantry, the light foot have moved up. They're still too deep in the woods to be fired at, so that brings us to archery fire. We have, remember, archers can fire 2 ranks deep. As they came out of the woods, these guys, now they came down the road, so maybe they're in column, or maybe we just say that if you're within a half an inch of the road, that there's a clearing through there. Either way, it's going to be 12 shots for the light bow and 10 shots for these guys, for the skeletons. With 10 archers, the Undead are firing at, we'll call it half armor. They're automatically going to do 3 casualties with 3 extra dice that will do casualties on a 4, 5, or 6. So we'll roll for those guys first. They're going to do a total of 4 casualties. We'll pull them off the back ranks. These guys are now out of the fight. Bowfire is simultaneous, so the Dank Elves return 12 shots. Remember, you can fire 2 rows deep. So they're going to fire 12 shots back, and 12 archers firing at medium or half shield. Oh, same thing. They're going to do 3 casualties right off the bat. Now, normally these guys would be light because they're not wearing a lot of armor. I guess we'll call it medium armor. It gives them the same opportunity. So on a 4, 5, or 6, they're going to knock off 2 more. And it looks like the Dank Elves at 5 to 4 are getting the best of that fight. Then we have, because our Dark Wizard here did not move, did not get shot at, did not do melee. He can cast a spell, and we're going to drop a fireball spell on the Elven Archers. Warlocks have a range of 24 inches, which is 12 on my table, so you can see they're in range. He has line of sight. It's going to do 5 plus the wizard modifier, in this case minus 2. So that becomes 3 times 2. It has a potential of doing 6 hits against the target unit. How do you know if you hit or not? Well, it's at this... You actually have to refer to the Dragon Breath, where it turns out for every hit that you do, you roll a d6 and you hit on a 4 or better. So we roll 6 more dice. We get 5, 5, 4, and a 6. So that's 4 more deaths to these light archers over here. This ends the turn. Let's find out who goes first on turn number 3. Die roll. That just means a reroll. With a 6, the Bonesmen get to go first, and they say, yeah, we definitely want to shoot first because we're going to do split fire and move. These guys, since they're not moving, they're going to get to fire once during the movement phase. And these guys aren't going to move either, so I guess we could probably work that out. before we do any of our movement. With 5 archers remaining, the skeletons do 1 automatic hit, and then they have 2 chances to do additional casualties. So roll the dice. Again, we're looking for a 4 or better. They're going to do a second hit, and the 4 remaining elven archers are going to be firing. Oh, they do 0 automatic hits. They only have a chance to do 1. So we roll. I get a 3. That's going to be a miss. No casualties for the skeletons. And they're going to win that fight. Well, at least for the moment. Because remember, he has a fireball spell as well. Oh, one thing though, the fireball does have a radius of 1 inch. So the most that we can destroy here is going to be 3 of these skeletons. Of course, that all depends on who moves first. And I think the elves probably say, I want to see these zombies move first. Because if these guys can move up and block line of sight or force him to move, then our dark wizard for the undead won't be able to get a spell off this turn. So why don't we do that first? I'm going to roll for this zombie unit. Let's find out if they move. They do. And what about the guys who have yet to move? With a 9, they still won't. These zombies way back here in the dark corner of the field are just not feeling it. And that wizard's got to be careful. He can only move up like another inch before they won't have the +1 to move. For the most part, the Dark Elves have to rest, man. They are tired. Does changing formation constitute holding still or not? They're not even going to do it. We're not even going to worry about that. The big thing is they got their heavy hitters. All 13 of them are going to be well rested and ready. The other thing is this warlock has not moved for those Dark Elves, so we can drop off a spell. Now, before we do that, here's what the other side of the table looks like. And before we do spells, we have to do archery fire. Unfortunately for the undead, these heavy troops have moved up and they're blocking the line of sight from the archers to the wizard. Okay, well, let's do the archers first. Oh, it's turn number 3 here. I'll show you on my green die. Let's camouflage. It just blends right in, right? So if we look at the archer chart, when you've got 2 archers firing up here at the medium, you aren't going to do any damage whatsoever. I don't think we need this Sabbath base for these 2 anymore. That being the case, what do? Let's actually march them over to here, leaving the line of sight open so we can blast here, slow these guys. Actually, they're probably still going to get pin cushioned, aren't they? Well, they are medium foot, so we can race them over to here, but then then we have to target this side of the heavy line. Not a problem. And so once again, so we don't have any open targets for the archers, unless you think they can fire over the heads of these guys. They're only going to do, but now, because the warlock is in the edge of the woods, if we give him cover, maybe we say, there's a couple of different ways to handle this. And this is where I really appreciate the judgment call help that you get with Hell March, right? That just means that you have disadvantage. With this, with Old Lords of Wonder and Ruin, what do woods do for you? It says, woods, movement costs double, no charging or movement in close formation. That's it. So it doesn't provide any, I think it provides cover if you're on the edge of it. So I could say, well, look, I got 5 guys that are shooting at a man with no armor. So I can either say, well, in this case, why don't we call it medium armor? Alternatively, I can say they only hit on 6s. Now, 5 guys firing at half or shield will do 1 hit with 2 potential. The other thing you do is maybe, so I'm just talking about doing like a column shift from unarmored to full armor, in which case they have 1 chance to kill that guy on a 4, 5, or a 6. Well, that's not too bad. And with a 5, he's dead. But maybe we allow him to get the spell off just to keep this game rolling. He's going to hit this guy right here. He has a potential of doing 5 hits. He's only going to do 3. And we always just pull him off the back ranks. The guys in the front ranks will move up. But that is a devastating blow for the Dank Elves, because with their commander out of the fight, everybody has to make a morale check. And we'll roll 2d6 for all of our... This is a morale check at +2, remember. On the other hand, when you've taken 50% casualties, you rout off the table. So these archers are going to go bye-bye, and he is not going to get shot after all. Of course, that also means these archers are going to take off as well. What's good for the undead goose is good for the dark elf gander, after all. And that brings us to turn number 4. There we go. Turn counter face up. We'll roll to see who decides who goes first. Boxcars means roll again, and the undead get to go first, and they say, we want to charge. We really want to try to get in and charge this warlock here. We might be able to end the fight. Which means we can roll for our zombies. Now notice that our warlock did move up last turn. That's part of why he didn't cast a spell. So he's got the bonus to these guys. They will move on anything on an 8 or less. They're not going to move. Well, what about the zombies in the back corner that you can't see anymore? 8 or less, they roll the 8. That does mean that they're finally going to be able to start marching up that road. And this one I'll show you. They're going to wind up stopping right about here. We'll bring up the stragglers. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20. There's 21 of them. I got a couple of stragglers back here. It's really more the front. Well, you can just barely see it. It's really more the guys in the front ranks that we're concerned with. 5 across. Now you will notice that these guys did expand to 6 across the front. And the big question is, we can charge 3 inches. Are we oh boy, we're not going to be able to make contact with this warlock. So we're going to charge right up to the edge of the woods, and that's as far as we can go. Fortunately, it doesn't cost us any fatigue because we are bonesmen. These guys are simply going to pivot and move up to here. Let's check those movement rates, because what we want to do is try to seal off this whole gap. Let's see if we can reorganize ourselves to get like 8 across the front. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll expand their ranks by 2 files, so they are 7 across the front. And all that our horses can do is assume close order. It takes a full turn to do that. With the amount of space they have here, I think they're going to be limited to just 4 across the front. We'll bring these last 2 guys on a little something like that. See, there they are. See, now they're in close order. And the last little bit of charging that we want to do here in the center is these guys. Now, bear in mind, they are in open order. So we should talk about what that means. When you charge in open order, long story short, it's a bit of a pile in, so we're only going to be able to bring, let's call it like 4 of these guys are going to be into combat. The rest of these guys are kind of loose and scattered, and that's pretty much where we're at. We're going to give the spear guys a full 7 attacks, and the loose order guys, we're going to give them 5. All right, that's the big thing is they've already charged, so they're going to earn 2 fatigue for that. And when we melee, they're going to earn a 3rd fatigue. Oh, I should probably mark the fatigue for the cavalry over there, and that's going to be it on the left-hand side of the table. Over on this side of the table, the tree giant, not a treant. The rules in chainmail are a treant can summon 2 friendly trees to come fight on his behalf. Remember, we're just basically treating him as a giant. He's worth 8 guys. So this is going to be an interesting fight. And with the zombies ready to come up here and start grabbing checkpoints, splitting the field in half is going to pay off big dividends for the warlock. In fact, we got to move him still, don't we? We need to figure out where's a good place to bring him into play. I think I'm just going to leave him over here. He's just going to keep giving these guys the support they need to keep things moving. Meanwhile, over here, this commander will be supporting the Dank Elf commander. There's my big fat finger. The Dank Elf commander will be supporting this unit of heavy troops. We could move him, but I'm going to wait and see what kind of cool spells we can drop on whoever is left on this heavy foot. Now remember, those are heavy foot. Armored foot. I always get that backwards. Anyway, it's going to be a total of 7 versus 5. And these are armored versus armored, looking for 6s. The blue are going to be for the elves. They're only going to get 1 hit. And the skeletons are also only going to get 1 hit. So we'll knock over a couple of guys in the back ranks. Because it's a tie, nobody gets the little morale bonus. With 6 surviving armored foot, the skeletons will have a morale score of, why don't we give them a +1? Normally it's 7. Let's give them 8. 6 times 8, 48. With 12 surviving armored foot for the Dark Elves, it's going to be 12 times 7. That's 84. Difference between 48 and 84 is going to be, what, about 36? Double it to get back up. Oh, the skeletons are going to have to retreat 1 move. So they fall back 3 inches to right about just the other side of that D6. Well, that makes it convenient, doesn't it? They are now retreating, which means they have, the spell is broken. They want to go back to the tombs from whence they came. And the real problem with that for them is going to be, well, first of all, these guys get to continue to move up just a little bit further because remember, you finish your charge. Then this guy is going to be able to cast another Blast 'em spell. That's going to be 6 dice, looking for 4s, 5s, and 6s. But of course, he's only going to be able to do 3 casualties at the most. Stand back up, you drunken fool. He's going to get 2 5s and a 6, so that's going to reduce their numbers down to 3. And because they're below half, they are removed from the table entirely. Things are falling apart for the undead here, aren't they? That's going to be it for them. End of the turn means we roll for initiative, and the undead get to go first. So, what do we do? I think the first thing we do is figure out where these zombies are going to go. I'm going to roll for the front zombies first, and they will activate. And they're going to race up here to grab this objective. Then the back zombies are also going to activate, and they're just going to follow suit. Meanwhile, these guys, let's just charge the light cavalry. I know we're going to get hit in the flank. Actually, we'll just charge everybody. They're going to have to go to open order, which you can do. But we're going to bring them all up. And what happens when you hit 2 units like that? I think we just kind of break it up. Remember, they're going to pile in. We do have 2 ranks. We'll count that later. We got a couple of melees over here where the skeletons count as charging. Problem we have over here is we've got a unit of armored foot behind us. Now, they're a little tired. They charged. They fought around a melee. They're going to be fighting as medium foot. We'll get a little more light on these guys over there. Look at that. Do we charge here? We have a charge distance, remember, of just 3 inches, and we're just out of charge range. But I think the other thing is we don't have to worry about being charged by these guys. We're too far away. But ultimately, even though we know we're about to get charged by the cavalry, I think you got to move up. You don't want those guys hitting you anytime soon. If they hit you in the rear, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. And remember, if we can drive these guys off, we can about face. We still have, it's turn number 5, isn't it? If we can beat those guys back, then, so there's our turn 5 marker. We may be able, if we can exhaust these guys, turn them back, these guys are going to have to move to seize the objective. So we may be able to drive the cavalry off, turn about face, and then charge and drive those guys off to recapture that objective. That's probably our best bet. So even without the charge, we're going to move up. The cavalry will move up to charge us as well. Skeletons only move up half a move. They expand their ranks by 1 more file. That gives them 8 boys in the front. But let's do the charging cavalry first. Medium horse against medium infantry. Remember, they defend as medium infantry. That's going to be 2 dice per lizard rider, hitting on 5s and 6s. I think I have all my red dice. So we're looking for 5s and 6s here. we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all together. So that means we're going to pull 5 skeletons off the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? The skeletons, for their part, have 16 across the front. And when you have heavy foot attacking medium horse, you're only going to get per 3 guys. So you're only going to roll 5 dice looking for 6s. Wow, 16. Yeah, for every 3 men. If they're armored foot, then it's for every 2 men. So and I can't remember. I probably should have written down all these special little rules. I think we said they move slow, they move as armored, but they fight and defend as medium unless they're being shot at, in which case they're fully armored. Okay, right. So it's only going to be 5 dice for the skeletons, but they really needed this fight anyway. So 5 dice, looking for 6s. The blue dice come up with nothing. And so that means because they did 5 casualties, we do have the morale bump here, and we'll call that a 5. So we're going to add 25 to the horse score. And here's where it gets even more interesting. We have 18 surviving skeletons. We give them a +1 to their troop class for the purposes of, similar to being a lead. So that means their troop class is 6. Well, 18 times 6 is 108. Okay, that's fine. Our horses then, because they are straight medium horses, they have a troop class of 8. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 25 gives us a 73. So we compare the 73 to the 108, take the difference. That's going to be 25, 32, 35, 70. We double that. The difference becomes, it was 35 doubled to 70 means the horses move back 1 move. They are retreating. They will ride back towards their baseline, swinging around this way. They're going to have to spend a full turn recovering. And they don't even count as ditching those, the fatigue markers. They have to spend a second turn. So turn 6 and 7, they're out of the fight, but they may be able to rush up and grab a victory point at the end of the battle if they need to. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. In the meantime, we do have another melee that we need to run way over here on the other side of the battlefield, where we've got 8 attacks by medium foot, and we've got the front rank is 2, 4, 5 by the light foot on these skeletons who fight as medium foot. All right, everybody's hitting on 6s. These are the attacks on the skeletons. And with a total of 3 hits, we're just going to pull 3 off the back. Now, the skeletons, we need to kind of break this up as well, because there's only like 4. Remember, everybody's in open order. So the first thing to be aware of is that because the skeleton's charged, we're only going to be earning 1 fatigue marker for the defenders. If these were not undead, if you have open order fighting closed order, the closed order guys don't suffer any fatigue markers. But of course, undead don't get tired anyway, as long as they're, under the power of this and fueled by the power of hate. So the next thing we do is we say, we're going to have, what do we got? Like 4 guys attacking the big boy. And that's going to be medium versus medium. So we're going to do 1 damage to him. I should probably put how are we going to do this? Let's put a casualty die down for him. And then we have 10 spearmen. See, 5 across the front here. We could probably squeeze a couple more. Let's just call it 10. Hitting on 5s, medium versus light. You're hitting on 5s. We're going to get 1, 2, and that's going to be it. So 3 casualties to 3 casualties means no bonus dice. So we have to calculate a somewhat complicated morale situation. Skeletons have a score of 120. We've got 20 guys left with a troop class of 5 plus 1 because they're undead. That's going to be 6. 6 times 20, 120. Very easy. The remaining 8 Lightfoot times 4, morale score of 32. The giant has 7 hits left. He fights his heavy foot. So 7 times 5 is 35 plus 32. That is 67. But we do have a bonus of 1 extra casualty. So we're actually going to be up to, I think that was 69 altogether. And that means 31, 51, double it to 102. And everybody surrenders. They all rout. So the undead are going to just thoroughly dominate this side of the table. And I think that's probably going to end the game, because if everybody over here routs, the undead are going to be able to just slide up and grab that objective marker. Now we do have 1 spell left. This wizard can target this zombie unit, but he's only going to be hitting up to 6 of them. And, with a more detailed, boy, he's only going to do 1 damage. So that ain't a lot. And the zombies on the next turn, well, let's just go ahead and play it out, right? You got to play the game to find out what's going to happen. On turn number 6, our cavalry are going to recover. Well, you got to play it out. We got to roll for initiative, right? The undead get to go first. They say we want to go first specifically because they definitely want to make sure that this line of spears about faces. They don't want to get hit by these guys. Bout face is about all they can do. Maybe they can move up and contest for this. But looking at the situation over here, so that way when the other armored foot charge, they're okay. These guys want to move up, and with a 7 they will. These guys want to move up, and with a 9 they will not. Boy, these guys are just a waste of points, aren't they? On turn 6, it's really anybody's game, right? These guys have already moved. Everybody's moved. The only guy that hasn't is our warlock. These armored foot charge. Now, they would love to have gotten into a little better position. Unfortunately, they can't expand the ranks. There are 5 of them in front, though. See, their little leader guy, he's not a commander, but he's a leader guy. So they charge it up. They're going to get 5 attacks. Medium on medium. No, it's not. These guys are armored on medium. And that, they're hitting on 5s. So 5 dice, hitting on 5s, nothing doing. Unfortunately for them, the skeletons are still 8 across the front. So they're going to get a total of 16 attacks. But they're only hitting on 6s. So we count the 6s. They only get 1 damage. Okay, well, that does mean it's 1-0. So they will get a bonus of 4 points to their morale. So we pull off one of these armored foot, and then we have to do a little bit of calculating. The armored foot still have 11 guys. They are going to be at 77. The undead, still have like 18 guys here, giving the heavy foot plus 6, the 108. We're right back to that. 108 is what they've got. 112 actually. And then set versus 77. 11 of these heavy foot at 7 a point is 23. That's going to be 31, double that, 61. The armored foot are going to move back 1 move. They will be retreating. So they're going to have to go back 3 inches to like right about here. And fortunately their commander is going to be there. He's going to help them rally. But that does mean that the undead have become proud owners of a 4th objective marker. The boss man now is going to cast his usual boom boom spell. I'm making this easy on myself. I don't need to remember spell list. Each of these guys is going to cast like 6 of these fireball spells, and that's going to be the end of it. So he is going to try to blast these guys, and hitting on 4s, 5s, and 6s, he'll donk another 3 off. It's not going to make that big a difference, because on this next turn, we roll to see who goes first. Look, the skeletons get to go first again. The zombies are going to move up to here, and that means they're going to claim... Oh, I'm sorry. This is the 4th now of the victory. Oh, 1, 2... How did I have an extra one? Oh, I threw 5 of them down. Where did that one come from? Did I actually drop? There's 6 of them on the table. I don't think that's supposed to be one. I think that's one that I dropped and just like totally forgot. It's 4-1 here on tape number 7. The cavalry are really about the only heavy hitters, and they're really exhausted. They're going to be fighting as light horse if they try to get stuck in. The best that we can hope for maybe is to contest for this, but that does still leave the undead with 3 of these objective markers. Remember, there's one behind the hill way back here. That's number 1, and then they've got these other 2, which even if these zombies don't move on this turn, which they don't, and the ones in the back, they are gonna slide up 3 inches, so they're gonna come up to right about there, and of course our wizard can move up too. So it's just, I don't see any path to victory for the Dank Elves. They're going to get off one charge over here on the left-hand side of the table, maybe hitting these guys in the flank, but here on turn 7, these guys are going to have to recover, and that's all they're going to do. The initiative roll is going to be hugely important. Maybe because they get the initiative, if they get it on turn 8 or turn 7, they may be able to turn around, but they're still so badly overwhelmed, and that's all they can do. So when the skeletons come in and hit them, and those skeletons, maybe they just stop right here and just say, come at me, bro. We're just going to squat on this objective, maintain that. And I think I'm kind of beating a dead horse. I'm beating an undead horse, aren't I? Sometimes you can just tell. So 6 turns is a pretty good amount of time. We're going to wind up with about an hour-long video again. And, I'm just doing these nice, simple little, 200 to 300 point battles, maybe 500 points. If you have a full-size table and like Warhammer scale armies, you could easily kill an entire afternoon with a 3-hour battle. Those 4x6 tables are going to work great for you. It's just the old lords, man. It's just a modern day retelling of a classic adventure tale, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Alchemic Raker knocked it out of the park with this one. Another fun little game. Had to kind of squeeze it in between life's own adventures, but it was worth doing because I'm having a great time showing you guys this. I'll clean up some of this table clutter and leave you with this gorgeous shot, this little bit of eye candy. I'm praying for you.